Hi. So today I asked Łukasz whether I can start this episode because I have a story, but he doesn't know what the story is about. Are you happy, Łukasz? No.
I'm surprised.
Okay. So let me start with the short story. So I was listening a podcast recently where Łukasz was a guest. The podcast is in Polish, so we will not link it in the episode. But he actually told one sentence that resonated a lot with my experiences as well. And he said that when thinking about the event sourcing, previously, before he joined Arkansas, he was thinking that it's some kind of cherry on top, right?
Yeah.
Is it? Do we have this saying in English? We have, right? It's not like greetings from mountain, right?
Yeah, it's like it's a cherry on the top of the cake, something like this. So I thought that always that it's something very special and that you can only start doing event sourcing when you master DDD, when you master microservices, and you learn the event store database. The second one that you often see in the blog post, which by the way, we'll have to kill that myth someday.
Yeah. And actually, exactly. And it was really close to my experiences as well. And that's why we also started this, let's say, in those first episodes, we started with event sourcing, and actually, because we actually want to show you that it's not hard, right? And first we said about the concept itself in the first episode that it's quite easy to understand. It has nothing to do with the architecture, actually. Then we showed you a really simple example on the simple small model that you can use, with some model in your application. Today we would go deeper and show you how we keep events in Event Store, because last time we finished with showing you, let's say, those methods where you have Event Store publish, and you could think that it's okay, but there is Event Store, so it does some strange magic, and we don't know what is under the hood, right? What are the how they store those events. Maybe you were thinking that it's some kind of external dependency, and surprise, surprise, it's not, because Event Store is like library that creates two tables in the database, right, Łukasz?
Yes, there is no black magic. And by the way, it's 8 p.m. when we are recording, and one of my neighbors is really loco because they're drilling. So I'll try to mute myself, but if you hear anything, then I'm very sorry.
No worries. Everyone has neighbors that are, doing
it's
from
8
time to
p.m.,
time.
dude. It's great. All right.
Maybe they have a party. Maybe it's not.
That's a very sad party. Drilling party. Okay, Tomek, so can we see the database? What's in here? I can really see that we have two tables. One is called Event Store Events, and one is the Event Store Events in Streams. So which one do you want to start with?
Let's start with the first one, right? Because we want to show how we store events, actually, right?
Yeah, sounds like a good idea to me. All right.
Yeah. So first, we will look at the events stored in the Event Store Events table. And if you recall, last time we created task and we were changing the name, right? And for example, you can see all the events that happened back then. So you have I will show you it like this. So we have the ID, where we have like database ID, which is auto-incremented. But we are actually interested in the event ID, which is the ID of the event, right?
Yeah.
And for that, we usually use like UUID, generated UUID, right? Then you can see the task event type. So it's like if you do, for example, the event storming, you have those orange sticky notes, and you have the name of the event. So we put them here, right? In general, we do this mapping, right? So if we have this orange sticky note with the name, it's like the type that we create in the code, right?
I think it's a good moment to do Tutorial magic and display the previous Miro board, the model from the previous Miro board just here. It would be awesome if you could do that, just to illustrate what we are talking about. But yeah, as Tomek said, those are the orange sticky notes from the event storming notation that tell you about something that happened in the system, some fact or event actually. That's why I call it event stores. All right.
Yeah, and then you can see two columns, metadata and data. And actually, before we start recording today, we were discussing them, right? Because in general, they are like payload of the event, right? And they together. But we distinguish, we split that into two columns because in the data we actually have the domain data, right?
Yeah, this just describe what's in the event that's important from the business perspective. As Tomek said, it will be the payload. So in the case of the task name change, that would be just the ID of the task, obviously, because we need that, but also the new name of the task, right? When task created, probably whatever is needed to create the task. In our case, maybe you can see that code, Tomek, in the task service. When we publish the events, so it's just the task, right? Which is the UUID, which is the secure random generated by secure random.
Yeah, in the task name change, actually, you have already you have also the name, right? And the task ID in the data.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
this could be different for different models, right? So when we think about, I don't know, if we would set some salaries for employees, we would have the salary information in that event, which would let us identify what's the recent salary of the employee. Small off topic, sorry.
Yep, exactly. And actually, the interesting part is the metadata column as well, because you can see, for example, here we have the correlation ID here. We didn't explicitly we didn't include that here, but we do. Let's say some kind of it's not magic, right? We just populated this automatically for you, so it's easier to have this correlation ID when we include it. And also another example is like which we discussed is like adding some. Sometimes you as a client, you can populate the metadata as well, because you had the one good example, right, about scripts.
Yeah, exactly. So sometimes there's a situation when you mess up something in the events, right? That's either you have to let's focus on one example that you need to create a new event stream. So what we usually do in those cases, we add some metadata that describes or adds an information that the change was done through the script. So then it's easier for us to distinguish when there is, if there would be another problem with that stream, we could actually see that this events was added to this stream through the script, right? So this kind of information we would keep in the metadata. But also sometimes we're still thinking, we're sometimes discussing this approach, but what we do is that we sometimes have the tenant ID in metadata, right? When we have multi-tenant application, that's in the one we are working on, right? Sometimes it's in the data and metadata, we're still trying to find out this middle ground, but most likely this information will be in metadata, as this okay, it's discussable. I will not get into that, but the thing is that you have to answer the question whether this information is strictly related to the event or it's something around it that would describe this tenant ID. So that's it. Unless you have anything else, Tomek, regarding the metadata?
No, I don't think so. Yeah. There are two last fields that I created that and valid that, right? But
it's just maybe interesting to talk about created that. Obviously, it describes when the event was created, but when it comes to the valid add, it describes. It's a bit tricky. We use it for something called bitemporal event sourcing. It's available in the documentation if you are willing to know it right now. If you're not, then you can just wait for another video because we'll probably cover that topic as it's very interesting.
Yeah.
However, valid add is a little bit different than created add because it describes when the events should have actually happened. So when it was valid. It doesn't matter when it was created. So valid add date could come before the created add date. And if you would scroll a little bit right, Tomek, if you could see this valid add, yeah, so you can see it's null. It's not a bug, it's a feature. It's a storage optimization approach. And actually, if we would set this valid add to something, it would obviously appear here. But when it's not set and you would fetch this information, you would fetch an event, the valid add would be the same as created add. So it's populated by Rails event store. So if you need to rely on it, you don't have to do any special null checks. It's just taking care of the client that hopefully you're using in your project. And yeah, that's an interesting thing about valid add.
Yeah, so as you can see, no magic here, right? Just a table with few columns.
Yeah, exactly.
The same as the next one, where we when we keep streams, right? So we can actually connect events to streams. We probably will not go deep into it, right? Because we would like to have another episode about streams.
Yeah.
Because we could talk a lot about them now.
And we still
makes
have
no sense.
we still have this goal that we never achieved, that we would love to have 15 minutes videos. One day we'll get there. Sorry, guys. You can always watch it a little bit with higher speed. I recommend 1.5. It turns out that I speak very slow. Maybe not today. I'm a little bit hyped, but normally I do. At least in the first videos, it was a little bit stiff. All right. So what do we have here in the events or events in streams table?
So the same ID, not so important here, right? But we have the stream, which is like the name of the stream. And that's what we showed you last time, right? That if we have, when we create a task, we always actually put the stream name here, because then we can look for a task, specific task, right? So it's like identifier for this event sourced model. And as you can see, usually it's like convention for us, like we put the name of the model, right? $sign and the generated ID and the generated ID here.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can
and when
see
it comes to
that, right?
When it comes to the $sign, it's very popular among most of the event stores actually, that there's this convention that it's used between the model name and the stream name. So and that's what you can see here on the first one. But you could say, hey, but in the second row, it's a little bit different, and the reason is that those streams are auto-generated by Rails Event Store for you. So, for example, what you could do with this information, you could find all the events that have type of task created and read them. And Rails Event Store is using this information to actually give you the list of the events by type or by correlation ID.
Yeah, exactly. And then we have the position, right, and event ID, so you know that we can connect it with the event store events table.
It may be just interesting to say that the one event can belong to many streams. It's one-to-many relationship. And when it comes to the position, it describes, well, there can be global position of the event, because we'll get into that in another episode, but maybe at this moment it's just important that there is the global stream and there is those streams that we define here, and the position describes the logical order of events in stream, right? So when we read the streams, then we know which event is at which position.
Yeah, I just wanted to show what you said before, like we have one event, right, which is connected to to three streams.
Mhm.
One is the task itself, the task stream, but there are those auto-generated here, right?
Mhm.
So they are linked as we call it, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's basically it, right? Those are internals of
Yes,
how
it
we
was.
of how we store events and streams, and well, quite easy, right?
No magic. No magic.
No magic.
So as you can see, there is nothing to be scared of, right? You still have control over your data. Even more, it's in the same database that you already have, because if you are working in a Rails project, you're most likely using SQLite 3, MySQL, or PostgreSQL. We were checking that before recording. Correct me if I'm wrong with the pronunciation pronunciation of database names. Rails Event Store supports all of them. We support SQLite in the binary format. We support MySQL with the binary and JSON, and Postgres with binary JSON and JSONB. If you're curious which one we use in our current project, we are on with Tomek, together with Tomek, as we work on one project. I can say that we're using Postgres with JSONB.
But we have also another project in Arkansas, right, that is using MySQL for since the beginning of the Rails Event Store, actually.
Yeah, since it was born. So I think maybe one last thing that we wanted to cover is that we took a look over the literature, and we also checked on other implementations of event stores, especially those that are working on the RDBMS. Usually it's just Postgres, right? Yeah, it's usually Postgres. Martin is running on Postgres. I'm not sure about Eventide. I don't remember. I think it was also Postgres. Anyway, it doesn't matter. What I want to say is that the structure of the tables is usually very similar. There are small tweaks and quirks that you can find that sometimes people will use the tenant ID, for example, as the column for multi-tenancy, which is cool, by the way, as well. But I think that the main idea and what I want to say is that it is more or less the same. So if you learn to do event sourcing in one event store, you can transfer those skills into the other. Which reminds me of a blog post of our colleague from Arkansas, which we'll probably link somewhere, maybe here if we can, and if not, then in the description. I think it was called Event Sourcing is Transferable Skill, something like that. We'll definitely link it. It's probably worth reading because the title says the truth. You can do it in any language and in any event store.
Yeah. So which also reminds me that there is one book that actually I very liked, and I still like it, and I sometimes before recording I also check some details in this book, which is hands-on domain-driven design with .NET Core. Yeah, we are talking. You've heard correctly. And fun fact, actually, before we joined Arkansas, me and Łukasz, we were not Ruby developers, and we are talking about Ruby now. But I was a Java developer for over 10 years.
Wow, that's a coming out, man. I shouldn't do that.
So unsubscribe, right?
No, click the subscribe button. It will keep us motivated to do weekly videos.
Yeah, exactly. Please do. You can always make some jokes about Java developers in the comments. But yeah, there is in the book, actually, I probably we will show it also here somewhere in the video. There's also an interesting part where Alexei describes that having a structure for storing events and streams is doable not only in RDBMS like we showed it here. It's just let's say one of the cases, but also in the document databases, and he describes how you could do it in the document database, for example, as well. But yeah, I agree with Łukasz that in general, all of the implementations, they more or less have the same structure as we have.
Yes, just to also add to what Tomek said, it's just as we talked in the first video, right? Event sourcing is in the most basic form is just persistence. There is nothing else, right? It's up and only log where you save your data. And I think with those famous last words, which probably someone could criticize me, which if you disagree, please comment below. It would be fun to discuss. Also, that's a good learning for us as well. I think it's time to say goodbye. And I believe that I don't see any timer right now, but I believe that we are not matching the 15 minutes once again. So maybe next time.
Maybe next time. Okay, so I think, yeah, that's it. And
thanks for watching. See you, guys. Ciao.
Bye.